Hey, it's Coach Jeremy here with Red Hawk Coaching and the s.o.a.r community, and I have Keith Strahan here. He's the managing partner of Fulton Strahan Law Group right here in Houston, Texas. And in our video last month, we got an introduction to who Keith is as both a person and a business owner. And today we're going to start taking that deeper dive. And welcome, Keith. Good morning.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. Love following what you're doing on Facebook and everything. The group is growing and it's pretty exciting. So it's glad to see people getting help too, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs over the last, I guess now 24 months, 18 months, right? So it's glad to know that there are resources out there that I trust to help people along, because there's a lot of bad resources out there too. So thanks for what you're doing for the community.
Oh no, definitely, and there is. There's. I specialize. My niche is real estate. I work with a lot of different small business owners, and it's interesting. In the last 24 months, a lot of these people that are in corporate world are making a decision that I don't want to do that anymore, and I want some freedom and flexibility to my life, and not being told exactly what to do. And a lot of that coming through healthcare. So we're seeing a lot of people flocking to owning a business, but they've never owned a business. That can be scary.
Yeah.
Tell me about you when you opened your business. How was that experience?
It was scary, right? Because I did what most lawyers do. Is I went to a firm and was an associate. I never really had to worry about the business side of the firm. I didn't have to worry about did the clients pay or not, because I got my wages and everything was good. And then I got into more of the entrepreneurial spirit, started understanding really what happened when I was there, Jeremy, is I was doing insurance defense. And so I was the guy that when you call your insurance company and say, I've got something happened, I was the guy where our firm was the firm that would come in and say, hey, let's protect you and let's defend you. And I started noticing that if these entrepreneurs and these people who have built these businesses had help at the very beginning and along the way, with someone who specializes, in small business, that they could have protected themselves from the very beginning of a lot of these issues that they're now having. And so, that was where my passion grew for small business. And I decided, I guess about 6 years ago now, to open my own firm and just kind of take that leap of faith and have my own business. And it's been great since then. And so one of the struggles I had, right, of course, we can talk about, incorporation for an attorney is kind of a no-brainer, right? Because I have my E&O insurance I've got all this, I've got an IOLTA account that I've got to set up with the bank. I've got all these regulatory things that regulate my business that I need to follow. And of course, a lot of your clients, as you said, Jeremy, have licenses. But for those who don't have licenses, or maybe not a highly regulated industry, the question does become: do I incorporate? How do I incorporate? Who do I want to be a part of the business? Those are all questions that you need to work through and talk with a business lawyer and really think about not only getting your business started, what do you want to grow into? A lot of people go on LegalZoom, and LegalZoom has been a great help to the community. I like it. The problem with LegalZoom, just to be honest, right, is that sometimes there's not a lot of guidance there exactly what's best for you. So one size fit all. And if you need something and you're just a single person, you go to LegalZoom, it's fine. But when you start having partners, or you're doing something that has a little bit more risk, or maybe there's some tax differences there, LegalZoom isn't a great, like a lot of my clients that come to me that did LegalZoom, we spend more money fixing what happened in the beginning than we did if they just had even if you just want to have a conversation with me and then go to LegalZoom because it's quote unquote cheaper, fine. At least you have some guidance of where you're going. And one of those big things is, Jeremy, is kind of we talked about in one of the Facebook posts was, LLC, corporation, all these types of deals. Like what is best for me? I'm not your lawyer. I got to do the ethical. I'm not your lawyer. Seek out counsel. I'd be happy to talk to you and have a consultation with you. But it really depends on what you're doing. I would say that 90% of the time, in someone who either has and there's an entrepreneur or quote unquote side hustle. Sometimes side hustle takes more hour than our main job, right? Maybe you're transitioning.
Too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Hey, you're absolutely right. So you still got that corporate job, but you started buying real estate on the side. You started, doing, FBA with Amazon, something like that, right? Like, LLC is probably going to be the best bet for you, 9 times out of 10. And even your CPA will say that. Now, there are some different tax structures that you can do with S Corp. I'm not a tax attorney, but I'll definitely talk to your CPA about that. But yeah, normally, most of the time, an LLC, if you're a single person or a single owner of the entity, it's going to be all the comfort you need from the beginning to kind of just get that protection, if you will, right? And that's what we're worried about. Because if you're out there in a sole proprietor, here's what's at risk, Jeremy. You've got, if you do something, let's say you have that rental property, and something happens on that rental property. Yeah, of course, you've probably got insurance there, and that's great. But if you ever get a judgment and something happens, and they come after you individually, and so now all that money you saved up for to buy that rental property, or to buy another rental property, or to any assets you have are now at risk because you could be held personally liable without that liability structure of an LLC, a corporation, an LP, or whatever, all the different types of entities with the Texas Secretary, that you would file with the Texas Secretary of State.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read a case one time. It was a renter that on the property was bit by a neighbor's dog, and because the landlord hadn't protected himself, guess who they came after?
That's right.
The landlord, and basically saying the fence wasn't properly structured, and because of that, the dog was able to get into the backyard and bite the person. And so not having that protection, or trip and fall, or something like that happens, most of the time it's not, I don't think it's in the tenant's mind to come after the landlord, but once they get with the attorney,
that's right.
Okay, are they protected? And if not, okay,
where's the money?
Right.
Who's going to pay? Where's the money? Who's going to pay? It happens all the time. Or you've got so let's say you're designing websites. I don't know, you're designing websites, and on the side, and you're charging, gosh, I don't know how much is a website, $8,000, $10,000 a pop, and you don't do something right, or you breach a contract and you get sued, and you don't have an LLC or you don't have an entity, you can be held personally liable, not only for the damages, but also for attorney's fees if you breach a contract, maybe loss of profit if they can prove that you screwed something up on the website, caused them to lose profits. There's a lot at risk. You just think you're out, doing HTML or whatever, web designers do, but you can put yourself, even something as simple as web design, you can put yourself at risk.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. And there's all these people that will go out and do like somebody's Facebook page, or
that's right,
things like that, where they're just going in and participating as an admin, or building it out and then changing the admin over. And they're just doing it to make a quick dollar, yet they haven't protected themselves. And it's all about perspective.
That's
and
right.
So you may be thinking you're doing a great job and you're riding cloud 9, but the customer or client, they're like, that's not what we agreed to.
Yeah.
And now they're coming after you.
Yeah.
So with the LLC, what protections, if you were to say the top 2 or 3 protections it provides you as a business owner, what are they?
The number one protection, as we talked about, it's a limited liability structure, which means that your liability is limited to the assets of that particular LLC. So, the great fiction that we have in U.S. law is that corporations or LLCs or entities are different persons, right? So that LLC is a person with its own assets, its own liabilities, and therefore, if you have anything that asset that LLC owns, an asset like a house, or a widget manufacturing or a web development entity, that the only thing, if something happens for that business, the only liability it has is limited to the assets of that business. And so insurance companies like for you to have LLCs. I think last time I talked to an insurance broker, they really like LLCs because it's cleaner. Now, and the second thing that really protects you is if you start having partners, there is a real or investors or whatever you want to call it. You bring in your cousin that wants to help. It's kind of a double-edged sword. And I'll mention the other edge of the sword. The good edge of the sword is that you have a legal entity that you're both a part of. right? It's not just two individuals coming together and hopefully something work out. There's a legal entity that y'all have duties and obligations to that itself acts as itself. And so, you agree, here's how we're going to run this. Now, the other side of that sword, and this is why you talk with consult with a lawyer if you and a business partner want to start a venture, is, that, and people joke about this, but it's true. It is easier to get a divorce in Texas than it is to break up a partnership or an LLC partnership or a corporation in Texas. It's very, very, very difficult. And so, before you bring on partners, you want to make sure that you understand the risk and downfall. Now, partners or LLCs with multiple people in it can be a great thing, right? Because you've got someone, Jeremy, you're great at marketing. Someone else may be great at, sales, in-person sales, and y'all come together and y'all just kill it together, right? You may be not as good. The sum is greater than, the whole is greater than the sum, or whatever that. Yeah, but you see what I'm saying, right? Like it really just depends, and this is why having an attorney from the very beginning is so important for you. But of course, I realize a lot of the people that we're talking to, it's just me. Well, great, right? Good. You're still protected yourself. Not only you protected, but Texas is a community property state. Now, if you aren't protect yourself, well, then you put your community property and your spouse's property, what they've worked for, at risk as well, right? Because the state sees that the spousal unit owns all the property together, right? And so, even if your husband brings home that bonus check and you screw up in your business, that person could go and, and claim on the husband's bonus check in theory, right? Because that's an asset to the marriage, of which is an asset to you, the spouse. And so, those are just big things too. That it may just be you, but there are other people behind you or maybe that are dependent on you that if you get a big judgment against you, can be harmful. Now, of course, does this happen all the time? No. Are the judgments that high? No. But, I also am a huge fan of, setting yourself up for success from the very beginning. Because if this is not legal advice, it's just what I've seen from my clients. The clients who come in and say, I want to take the time, I want to take this seriously, I want to do it right from the very beginning, have been far more successful than the people like, I'm going to do that when I get to it. Right now, I just want to make a couple of money, a couple of dollars to get myself going. And sometimes that's great. Yeah, I get it, right? Like it's $300 to file a LLC formation, and you may have a vending machine out there, and you're like, I haven't sold anything yet. I don't have the extra $300. I spent all my money on the vending machine, right? And so I get it. It's a balancing act. And at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do as your counsel, or what any lawyer is trying to do, or even a CPA or a business coach, is I'm trying to mitigate your risk, your potential risk. I just want to give you what could happen. And you may say, I'm willing to take that risk, and great. And most of the time it works out. But, that's not why we get insurance. That's not why we set up LLCs, because we do that for the times that don't work out. And of course, the entity, and talks with, the entity itself, and this may be the third prong, is that there could be some tax advantages that you could get by setting up a separate entity.
Yeah, I know personally myself, I'm an S Corp inside of an LLC. And it's a significant tax savings by setting up that way. And that's where, that attorney relationship and that CPA relationship is so important. Right. You might be paying a lot more out than you actually need to. And so a question on the LLC, like I know when somebody sues somebody, and I'm thinking of an instance that I was in formerly, is the LLC was sued. Mm-hmm. And they made the attempt to go after the individual,
right?
Because they were trying to claim gross negligence.
Right.
So if somebody has an LLC, does that mean that they can still act in gross negligence and be protected?
No, it's the second part of that, right? Is there is what we call the corporate veil, right? And so there's a corporate veil, and it's there is obviously, everybody knows that Oz is controlled by the guy behind the screen, right? But there's that veil that separates how the corporation acts from the people who acted from it. So as long as you are acting in accordance with the Texas law, or your state's law, and your LLC formation documents, your operating agreement, your partnership agreement, then you get that protection. you cease to get that protection when you act outside of the scope. Main reason that acting outside of the scope, as you said, is something like gross negligence, which is not just like, hey, I didn't fill this hole properly. Gross negligence would be like, hey, I just put a sheet of parchment paper over the hole and still let customers come in my store. That's gross negligence. It's so offensive on its face that, like, hey, you acted so badly that we're coming after you individually because you're the one who acted, right? You acted. And so not the company didn't put that parchment paper, you did, right? And so those are instances, but most small businesses, to have that gross negligence is going to be very hard. You really have to have a business, and I think we talked about this last time, maybe not, but the more your business rises to the level of potentially creating some bodily injury or even death, the more this becomes serious, right?
Sure.
There are some, like skydiving, you're right, like exactly right, yeah. And so those are the big things. Those are all the damages you see, right? You very rarely see a ton of damages, for something that is a non-bodily injury or death claim. I mean, sometimes it happens, but if something happens in a home or something, you don't properly. I can't even come with an example. Do you see what I'm saying, right? Like that's where really the monetary damages become so extreme. Now, gross negligence can happen in something like, fraud, right? Or not even fraud. Let's say you've claimed to, create a client's website, and this is a good one because I just had this. You claim to have created a client's website. You've taken the money and you ghosted, but you have an LLC. I'm going to claim in that lawsuit that you never had intention and you defrauded. You are so fraudulent in how you acted that I'm coming after you personally. You don't get the benefit of the LLC. Now, if I paid you the $8,000, you have the LLC and you created the website and it was just terrible. Well, that's not. I mean, that being bad at your job necessarily doesn't rise to the level of negligence, and it's definitely not gross negligence, right? Or even fraud, depending on how it's circumcised. But you can see what I'm saying, right? Like you just need to know your business and what level of risk do you have by. And of course, what monetary damage, and then this is also, as we talked about before, this is why an insurance company is so important to have a partner with as well. Not only your attorney, your CPA, but an insurance company that you trust, that knows your industry, knows the risk, and knows what the pitfalls, and also, is not expensive. To be honest, Jeremy, a GL policy, a slip and fall policy, for someone who doesn't have a lot of, foot traffic or potential risk of bodily injury is not expensive in the long run. Yeah, it costs money. I'm not trying to, but you get to sleep at night knowing that, everything you've worked for gets protected.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, and probably my takeaway in this, and the takeaway of the people that are watching this is it does cost. Anything that you do is going to cost it's going to take an investment. Coaching with me takes an investment.
Yeah.
Hiring an attorney takes an investment. Yet by doing that, having that comfort at night and being able to sleep, knowing that, hey, I'm doing my best every day to go and do the right thing. I'm avoiding gross negligence or negligence, and I'm doing my best every day of what I'm attempting, and I'm protecting not only my personal assets, but my wife's personal assets, my kids' legacy, all the people that participate in that. And so I think these are all great points. And if you were to leave a takeaway today, somebody's sitting there and they're saying, you know what, I haven't, maybe I've gone the LegalZoom route. I haven't sat down and spoken to an attorney yet. What would be the best way to contact you and set up a consultation just to kind of lay out what's going on in their world and maybe how you can help? Sure.
Well, FultonStrahan.com or Keith at FultonStrahan.com. I think all my info is in the Facebook group in that page. So, feel free to check me out there. FultonStrahan.com, you can find me there. And what I do, especially for, people that come to you, Jeremy, I send you a 15-minute, Calendly link, and you click on that, you schedule 15 minutes. We're probably not going to solve all your problems, but at least I can have an introduction to who you are, what you do, And then, maybe we can come up with a strategy for next steps. And that is a free consultation. The 15-minute is a free consultation that just kind of puts me forward, lets me know where you're at. And, you may leave that 15-minute consultation. I may say, you don't need me. Or I may say, can we schedule an hour next week? That would be great. So at least you have that, right? And I'm happy to do that for anybody that comes through you, Jeremy. I've got a calendar link that if you post this on Facebook, I'll gladly shoot that over to you. We can throw that in there if people want to go in and do that.
That'll be great. So if you're watching this and you haven't taken those, and even if you're starting a side hustle business and you're looking to grow that, I highly encourage you to have that conversation. It's just a conversation.
That's right.
And it's not a commitment.
No.
Yet I'd hope that you would commit as well, because I don't want to see one day something happen as far as in your business where you're financially destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's why having a relationship with somebody like Keith is so important in your world and in your business.
Jeremy, can I add one thing? I don't want anything that I ever say on these calls to discourage people. I think that what people do in entrepreneurs are so vitally important. And so, I'm just here to help you sleep at night and know you're covered and your risk is covered. I don't want to ever discourage someone from either because it's financially or whatever, from pursuing their dreams. And if they want to leave that rat race or the corporate 9-to-5, God bless you, I'm here to help. I don't want you to ever feel like, that you don't have help or you don't have a resource. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged. I want everybody to be encouraged that you can be protected and you can go do it, right? So that's kind of more of a note that I want to leave on.
Yeah. I think sometimes we talk to the lawyer, we're like,
yeah, that's right. I know. I hate it, but it's, but not only do you get to build your business, but you get to rest easy knowing that it's protected. So that's let's spin it that way, shall we?
Yeah, I love that way. And I appreciate you taking the time, Keith, today. It's Keith Strahan with Fulton Strahan Law Group right here in Houston, Texas. We'll drop the calendar link into the comment section.
Please do.
So if you do have a question, reach out to him and connect, and it'll definitely be worth your time, not just now, but in the future. So thank you again, Keith.
All right. God bless, Jeremy. Appreciate it.